Hey everyone, I'm Michael DiTullo, Creative Director here at Frog San Francisco, and I'm going to be interviewing John Maeda, President of RISD, for the Passion issue of Design Month. Thanks for joining us, John.
Thank you, Michael.
So, the first question is deceptively difficult, but what are you passionate about right now?
I'm passionate right now about how art and design can have a different kind of impact than it had in the past. In the past, it was all about the thing world, and now I think it's about the movement, the strategy, the change place that design can have a bigger impact, and art as well.
Mm-hmm. And in a way, like, that's interesting because it's like it's not an either or. It can't forget what it was. It just has to also expand and do these other things.
Well, it starts from something real.
Yeah.
Something physical. That's the human part, the sound your body makes when you do this thing. And then when it can come from there out to the world, it can have a bigger impact. It's like my little brother he had a subwoofer in his trunk, kind of a crazy kind of guy. And I was like, why do you keep playing the music so loud? I mean, everyone, like all in every block can hear it. And he said, it's because I can feel it. So designers, artists know how to make feeling, and that feeling is so needed in different areas of the world beyond our thing economy, the idea economy.
Yeah, definitely. So, what keeps you kind of personally inspired and motivated in the good times as well as the bad? We all have our tougher moments, and there's usually that thing that we draw on that keeps us going. Do you have something that satisfies that need for you?
Oh yes, I think what keeps me going is, to your point, the passion part, and passion found in the little events in your life, the things that you get to glimpse and see, and you can play with them in your mind. Like your watch, I'm thinking it's like an alarm clock on your wrist. So I'm like, oh, that's pretty heavy. You must really like that watch, you know. And
I'm nearsighted.
Oh, that helps too. But this idea of everything you see, something can be found. Every relationship you make can become something sometimes. If you're really watching and listening and careful, that's what gets me excited. The everyday moments make it all.
The simple moments that sometimes people overlook, or so easy to overlook, can be so inspiring.
And we all overlook, and I think the nice thing about getting older is that you see things differently. Even though your eyesight gets worse, I think you just see the world in a more precious, more you care more, which is great.
And here's one. We were thinking a little bit about RISD and the students there, and is there a way that you would say that RISD helps students to kind of develop their passion in a way that's applicable to the challenges that we're going to face in this decade once they leave school?
Yeah. Well, if there's one thing I know, going back to art and design in general, I think artists and designers have a kind of challenge because most people don't know what art and design is. I think maybe it's wearing like a black turtleneck. Maybe it's like having like paint all over your face and your shirt, or it's just kind of like, and also the other stereotype is art is really easy. And what I get to see from seeing RISD students in the studio that are there like almost all night long, all the time, you see kind of passion, to your point, a kind of superhuman passion. I was, you know, when I first came to RISD, I began this tradition of moving in the freshmen. The cars are lined up, I said hi to all the parents, I carry boxes in, and it was just to get a sense of, you know, getting your hands into the system of what is RISD. And what I saw is every year, you know, all this passion from parents and students, but also what happened is a Providence police person came up to me. He said, hey, are you the president of RISD? I said, yeah. You're carrying boxes? I said, why? It's good. You know, and he said, well, anyway, I want to tell you something. It's that every night in Providence, I'm breaking up parties at different colleges in the Providence area. Not a single one at RISD.
It's true.
Your kids work so hard. What's the deal with that? He said.
It's hilarious.
So I would say that RISD teaches students how to find their passion and go for it. Now, how does it manifest to the real world? As you know, we live in a very uncertain, ambiguous, volatile world now. Where is it going? You need people that are unafraid to be themselves, to take on difficult tasks, that aren't afraid to get their hands dirty. That's what I think RISD teaches.
I remember from when I was there, that work ethic, there was no escaping it. And I remember one night, the night before a major critique in industrial design, the head of the department at the time, Robert O'Neill, came in around 8, 9 o'clock at night when all the students were working, and he started critiquing everybody on the spot and ripping them down, like, this isn't good enough, you could do better. And of course, we all worked all night, and he gave us this advice, and we worked all night on his advice, and we came in the next day, and then he started arguing down the advice. Why did you do this? Well, you told us. Well, that's not a good reason. And I remember having a 2-hour argument with him once on something, and at the end, he said, good, I agree with you, and you believe in what you're doing, and that's what it takes. And that was kind of like, there was no escaping that RISD, and that really prepared me.
You're making me think of an image of like a tangled cord, and the professor tangles it more, and then you're trying like, oh, where's this go and everything. In the end, you realize that the goal wasn't to untangle the cord. You already conduct electricity already. So you found that was the whole point. I see it happens so often in great learning.
Yeah. So speaking of, can you tell us a little bit about your kind of effort to add art to the national agenda of STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, that's kind of going on in the national discourse?
Yeah. Well, when the economy goes down, policymakers believe to bring it up, you have to invest in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, education. And what that means is more test-taking focus, and therefore removing art from the curriculum because it doesn't fit. And what does that mean? I think it means that if America follows this policy, which other Western countries are picking up, it'll become like Japan or Singapore. Countries known for being test-taking, but have tested creativity out of the system. Not a good idea. So I think art and design culture has to strengthen itself. It has to find a place at the table, find a place in the relevance of that. What's the problem? The problem, though, of saying STEM to STEAM, adding art, is some artists say, do you mean that's art in the service of science? First reaction.
Interesting.
And this reaction is quite normal because art is about making your thing, which is selfish, but also wonderful because sometimes your thing is impacting our world in a way you would never expect. That kind of art is going to happen anyways, and that's a given. And in the world of education, STEM, the dominance, we have to talk about how art still has a role in education in America. So art for art's sake is going to happen, but art that can change how we think of innovation, how artists think, how designers think, in all the fields we know that have changed, are changing our future, we got to put art there. Otherwise, the world will not be more human. The world will not be, we won't realize quantum leaps in how we think. So STEM to STEAM is so important.
And the answers to our problems are not multiple choice. And art is about creativity and redefining the world around you creatively, processing it. And I think that we're not going to get there through a workbook.
And how do we make STEM to STEAM happen is the question. So we've been working in Congress to get the America Competes Act to integrate art and STEM legislation. And that's stuff coming from an art school, RISD. So we're using our political might, and not just our might, the might of the alumni and all artists and designers to just get together to say, hey, wait a second, America. We have to think about STEM turning into STEAM.
And right now we're just so reliant on individual teachers who are trying so hard. I mean, I remember the way I found out about Rhode Island School of Design, and I don't know if I've ever shared the story with you, but I was in math class, 9th grade, algebra, and I had a really good head for algebra, and the teacher, Mrs. Jacobus, was explaining an equation for the 10th time to somebody, and I was just I was the kind of kid where it's like, I already know this, and I zoned out and started drawing, some rocket robot car or something in the back of the class, and I'm just engrossed in it. And she walks around, and she grabs the piece of paper off my desk and crinkles it up, and it says, "Pay attention and see me after class." And I thought, I'm gonna be in trouble. Saw her after class. She pulled out the piece of paper and she neatly unwrinkled it, and she wrote at the top, "Rhode Island School of Design."
Oh, what a nice story.
And she said, "My brother went here for architecture.
Wow.
I want you to write to them," because it was before Google.
Before Google.
This is in the 80s. I want you to write to them and get their catalog, and I want you to go there.
Wow.
And if it wasn't for her, right? If it wasn't, my path would have been totally different. I was relying.
Interesting.
On.
That's a steamy story.
Yeah, and she was a wonderful math teacher. And I think it's like, but she had.
She saw the world.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, the last question: what do you foresee as creativity's primary role in kind of humanizing the technologies that are about to go mass? There's so many things kind of on the forefront that people are maybe a little apprehensive about, and how can creativity help them?
Well, I think it isn't just about how can creativity help with it. It's how can the world begin to recognize what that thing is. Like when people keep talking about Steve Jobs, they're like, what is it about Steve Jobs that made this possible? I can think, was it the business? Was it technology? And they're about to say it's that design thing.
Yeah.
And they always fall short of it, because
Yeah.
all the articles talk about is a brilliant, and the design part's still more opaque, less developed. It's because in general society it isn't understood. So I think for creativity to advance, art and design have to expand our voice in talking about what the heck it is. It's something about passion, to your point. It's something about rigor and discipline. It's something transformative. It's something human. And it comes from people who are trained to do it. And we need many of them.
And I think for designers, for creative people, it's not necessarily the kind of problem, it's that the problem is interesting. So in other words, if the problem of designing this pen is interesting to me, I want to do that. And if the problem of designing the tax code is interesting to me, I want to do that.
Well, that's what, when you were saying that, even before the camera was running, about having creative people will only move if it's an interesting problem. And you can also tweak that to mean creative people only move if they have a good question that they want to answer. And I think that question formation can't come just from the problem domain. It has to come from the living, real life world space. So I see artists and designers really having a role in that world space to find the interesting questions, to get passionate about, to solve them.
Thanks for spending a few minutes with us, John. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael. Likewise.